What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And today we're talking about Arman Tsarukyan after we had that crazy press conference where Dana White basically outed him for missing weight back in January when he was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev and had to pull out at the last minute. I heard somebody talking about this earlier today, and they were just explaining once again probably what a issue that was for the UFC, because they placed the fight in Los Angeles, where there's a very big Armenian community, which obviously was coming out in droves to support Arman Tsarukyan. And when they have to make a change to the main event, they probably had to refund pay-per-view buys, and I'm sure they had to refund ticket sales as well, because I think it depends on the state, but I think in a lot of states, if the main event changes, you're entitled to a refund. I think if like other fights change, then maybe not so much. Don't quote me on that, but this is what I can't remember what show this was on, whether it was Javier Mendez or whatnot, but somebody was saying, yeah, man, it would have caused a big problem. So anyways, if that is indeed what happened, you can see why the UFC is so upset with Arman Tsarukyan. But the question is, did that happen? Because Arman is still denying that it was a weight issue, and that, in fact, it was due to the back injury, which he mentioned back in the day. So let's rewind the clock. Let's go back to that presser that just happened where Dana White finally said, like, he never said it. He alluded to it back in the day, but he never came out and said explicitly that Arman missed weight. Justin Jaynes on this channel kind of made a case, not really made the, well, but yeah, I guess he kind of made the allegation by making a case on this channel explaining that he strongly believed, didn't know for sure, but he strongly believed that Arman Tsarukyan missed weight for a number of reasons. I'm going to replay that video as well in this presentation, but hopefully by the end, you can decide for yourself after we go through everything. But first, let's hear Dana White's statement one more time.
Yeah. With Arman Tsarukyan weighing in as the backup, is he getting back in the good graces with you and the?
Well, it's not about getting back in the good graces. It's about, the guy had the opportunity to fight for a title and didn't make weight. It's just, I mean, you couldn't fuck up anything worse than that. But he proved, now that he's not fighting for the title, he was here as a backup fighter. He made weight, so it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Okay. So the good news is he's going in the right direction. And I look, it makes total sense that if that actually was a weight miss, then one way to make amends is come in and show that you can make weight as the backup fighter, where you're not actually having to get into a fight. Show us you can make weight, and then we can talk about your next fight or a potential title fight. Now, on top of that, just listen to how Dana White talks. Like, I don't think he would say something like this. It was just a sneaking suspicion. He's gone out there and explicitly stated that Arman Tsarukyan missed weight, and then goes on to double down on that and saying, I don't think you could F up anything in a bigger way, or however he said it, whatever. But if you take those two statements together, this feels like Dana's coming from a position of near certainty in terms of what actually happened. I know people can say all the time, oh, well, Dana White might bend the truth when he's promoting and this and that, but this is not one of those situations. This is a situation where he stayed silent, but he definitely alluded back then that he felt Arman could have fought, but was choosing not to fight, and he was quite upset about it, and Justin even talked about it in his video. All right. Moving on to Arman's rebuttal. So he was interviewed by DC today, and he explained, DC asked him point blank, was it a weight miss? Indeed. And Arman doubles down on this narrative that it was indeed an injury. And I just want to preface it by saying there's a couple things I want you to look out for, but DC makes a crazy facial expression at one point. So we're going to pause it there. I know sometimes people get bad when I pause it, but I want to pause it there and just talk about it briefly. But yes, anyways, so DC is going to go through this entire thing. He asked him point blank, and you can hear his explanation here. But the other thing that I want you to pay attention to or keep in mind is, if he's had this narrative for this long time, he's stuck to it adamantly. God knows how many people in the UFC staff or Dana White or whatnot that he's told this over and over. He can't go back on it now. It would just be crazy to now go back and try and say, oh, well, okay, fine. You guys got me. It was a weight miss. I made the whole, like, there's no way out. You're trapped. You have to stick with the lie at this point. Otherwise, it looks absolutely ridiculous. So just keep that in mind as we watch his explanation.
6 years, and like, I knew about that fight before 4 months. Like, you can bring your body like to that day where you're like good, you know, and it's not like 4 weeks or 2 weeks. You gotta jump in on a diet and like.
So what he's saying is he knew about the fight well in advance. It was a huge fight, a massive opportunity. All of that I understand. And so he's like, what? Essentially, why would I ever miss weight if I had this much time to prepare? It wasn't a short notice fight or whatnot. So it makes no sense. And all of that is fair. Yet things could have still gone wrong. Something could have happened along the way, or maybe there was a mistake during fight week or the week before or whatnot, where maybe he wasn't specifically on his diet. Now I'm totally speculating here as to whether or not that could have happened. But the thing that worries me when I hear Arman say this is, it's like you sometimes watch those Dateline shows where they're like, but why would I do this? Why would I commit this crime? I have so much to lose, and what doesn't make any sense. Instead, I could have gone and done this and done that, and it's like you're giving these justifications as to why you shouldn't have done it, but maybe you still did it. You aren't thinking at the moment, or you made a mistake, or you made a dumb decision. So when you go back, I feel like it's a bit of a red flag to try and logic through the reason as to why this wouldn't have happened when maybe there was a poor decision made along the way, despite the fact that there were massive stakes, or despite the fact that you knew about this 3 or 4 months in advance. So just saying.
To do a lot of cardio, and I was lighter than the last ones, you know. I was lighter for 3 pounds, and I was in the pictures. How you can see, like, I was so lean. I was in good shape, you know.
This was the craziest pictures ever.
The one
He may have been on weight. Again, I'm not disputing any of this. I don't know what a picture can tell you, because again, you could be lean, but you could have maybe put on muscle mass. It's like, I'm not saying any of that is true, but I'm just saying these don't necessarily explain away the notion that explain away the fact that, hey, this indeed was a weight miss.
first thing, I overtrained and it hurt my back, especially when I was dehydrated. I hurt my back, and doctors came and checked my back.
The other thing that Justin pointed out to me, I would have never connected the dots here or been so bold as to make an assertion or make a statement in regards to the type of training that happens while you're weight cutting. But what Justin pointed out to me is usually you're doing super light workouts. You're more or less moving on a bike. You're moving around very lightly to start to get that weight off at the very end, when you're really just dehydrating yourself and cutting a lot of water weight. So the likelihood, it still could happen because your body is fragile in a dehydrated state, but the likelihood that you would overtrain or overexert yourself, especially when you're being monitored by everybody, including the UFC staff, at least this is Justin's opinion, that it doesn't ring true that at this late in the game, there would be an overtraining issue that would cause something like this severe back injury. Of course, anything can happen. I mean, who knows? There's all sorts of possibilities for medical anomalies, but that was Justin's take.
And yeah, they said, like, if you couldn't move, if you couldn't make the weight, just don't do that. So
there's right there. I've heard this like interview a couple times. Right there, he goes, if you couldn't move, if you can't make the weight, then just don't do it. And then I feel like he realizes that he just said, wait a minute, they said if you can't make the weight, but then now I've just said that I couldn't make the weight. So I think he jumps in to start trying to correct himself on that statement, but then DC jumps in so he doesn't get a chance to say whatever he was going to say.
Arman, what do you think when you hear that from me, and then you hear it from Dana, and you're like, oh my God, this is so bad, right? Because you stepping on the scale is a great thing, but then obviously I have a big voice in MMA. Obviously Dana is the voice in MMA. When you hear that, what do you think?
Watch after what Arman's about to say something that is a little like it just doesn't make any sense. He's talking about the doctors and being mad at the doctors, but when he says this, watch DC's face. He makes a crazy little expression on his face of like, huh? So just check this out and judge for yourself.
Like, as the guy that knows, it wasn't a weight issue, it was a medical issue.
I'm mad on the doctors because they're supposed to tell to Don.
You see him look up. He kind of looked up. He's like, huh? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but he's saying he's mad at the doctors. They're supposed to tell Dana what happened.
No, what really happened. They check my back and send me to do MRI or something, and made the right decision, you know.
Why would the doctors lie? So he's saying the doctors didn't tell Dana the truth, but what's their incentive to not tell him the truth? They probably told him what they thought. Dana alluded to that. He's like, hey, he was checked out by some woman. She was the best in the business, and basically insinuating that he was able to fight if he chose to fight, or if he was able to make the weight. But that was the insinuation. And I just don't see why UFC medical staff, and there's probably not just one, there's multiple, would have any incentive to make something up or not disclose the reality of what happened. So I don't know. To me, this explanation doesn't really add up. I'm still not certain that what he's saying actually happened. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And I'm going to show you guys why at the end of this video, that I think he's still actually going to get the title fight. So it's sort of like a moot point. But in terms of Arman's future, and I think also by him coming in and being the backup fighter and making weight, I think he's back in the good graces of the UFC, I would assume. Okay, now we're going to do a quick rewind. We're going to go back to Justin's video just one more time, explaining all the reasons, if you guys missed it, as to why he firmly believed or highly suspected that Arman did indeed miss weight. Check this out.
I don't believe it. He's had trouble making weight before.
As far as your weight, any concerns long term? What happened there?
This time, really, it's my bad, you know, because when I started cutting weight, and then I gonna show my weight, I lost like 500 grams. I said it's impossible, you know, but I think next time I will do my weight, because all time I did easy, you know. This time, next time will be better, you know. Sorry about my weight.
And making 156, you know, at contender weight when you're fighting for contendership is tough. But then making 155.0 is really tough. That extra pound, guys, if you guys don't know, is a huge difference. And you know, I've been a half pound over before. And I'm done. Like that last pound can be devastating. That last half pound can be devastating. So I'm going to speak from experience here. It's like I've been in situations to where I want to stop cutting weight, especially if I've struggled in the past. You know, he has UFC doctors around him that can say if he can compete or not compete. And from my understanding, doctors were fine with him competing. His pre-fight medicals, they were passed. Even after he said he hurt his back. You know, they said he could compete if he wanted to. Obviously, we can't make him fight, especially if there's an injury that they're not entirely sure of. But they did say they were comfortable with him competing. All right, now, if Tsarukyan comes in and misses championship weight against Islam, he's never getting another title shot ever again, regardless of the outcome, even if he goes in there and knocks Islam out. So I really think that Arman thought he was going to miss weight, and he made an excuse to why he missed weight.
Okay. So again, when you look back at that, now you may disagree. You may say, no, he would have missed weight, but he still had to fight. He just wouldn't have gotten the belt. Maybe they would have had a rematch afterwards. I don't know. But Justin's a fighter. I defer to him. And that was his take. Also, there was that previous weight miss. Now, there was a reason for that. I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was some reason. It was like short notice or something like that where he missed weight, but it had happened one more time. So I also think that that would have been an extra bad look if he would have missed weight for a championship fight and after already missing weight for a previous fight where you saw there he was apologizing. So I think his back was against the wall, and him and his team, or he on his own, just decided to try and get out of it with some sort of an excuse. And I just don't think Dana White and the UFC bought it, unfortunately. And when he's saying the doctors, I'm mad at the doctors for not disclosing, it's like, well, are you mad at them for not telling Dana the truth, or are you mad at them because they told him what was up or what they believed and it conflicted with your story? I don't know. You guys judge for yourself, but that's kind of where I'm at. Okay. Now there's also a bunch of things that have making me suspicious that have been posted online by Arman Tsarukyan in terms of his love and affinity for all sorts of food and binge eating that make me a little bit more suspicious. A lot of these suspicions are now washing away that he's obviously capable of making the weight because he just made 155. But I'm just saying, you have to also look at all these random videos that he posted, and it just doesn't look good. So I think now Arman maybe shouldn't post any videos of him doing these binge eating challenges. But look at this. We're going to start here. And even Merab throws a little jab at Arman and even says, hey, I think you missed weight. Check this out.
You know, Arman Tsarukyan, when I interviewed him, he told me he could eat like 30 of them. Did you really eat 30 Khinkali the other day?
Of course.
Really?
I mean, like,
when I was 2 years old, I started eating Khinkali. It's like every weekend we eat Khinkali.
Yeah. Do you know how to make it?
No, my he knows how to make it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he does the best Khinkali in the world.
Wow. That's why he missed the weight.
I mean, it's like he said it himself. But anyways, oh yeah, that's one. Khinkali, by the way, I looked it up. It's a Georgian dumpling. It sounds actually really good. Next, remember this clip. This is insane. This is so unhealthy. Listen to what he says right at the beginning.
Diet starts tomorrow.
Like what? That is just the unhealthiest food. I think this is in the build-up to fighting Islam Makhachev too, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact date, but it's crazy. At a minimum, okay? At a minimum, I don't think you should be posting these videos, at least not anymore. Let's get rid of the food challenges, especially with all these allegations. Now Dana White throwing out that he straight up thinks you 100% missed weight and that it was a huge mistake and whatnot. But there's more. Don't forget this crazy video, another binge eating video, and this time it's like thousands of dollars of caviar.
Yabba dabba. He eats caviar fiercely.
I'm just saying, it just doesn't look good. All right, moving on. Oops, get rid of this. Hope that music doesn't give me a copyright issue. Anyways, nevertheless, regardless of all this, regardless of how much hot water he got himself in for missing that event, having the UFC to probably made them refund a bunch of tickets and a bunch of pay-per-view buys and all that massive debacle that ensued back in January. Despite all of this, I think he still gets the fight against Topuria. Why? Let's look at the lightweight divisions. They just got dropped today after Ilia Topuria has now won the title and sits atop the throne of the lightweight division. Well, number one is Islam Makhachev. He's out. He's at 170, so that's not going to happen. What about Charles Oliveira? He just got beat. He's out. Next on the list, we have Justin Gaethje. I think Justin Gaethje is out along with Paddy Pimblett. Why? Because the rumor is that those two are going to be squaring off very soon, maybe on the Dricus du Plessis card, UFC 319. We shall see if that rumor is indeed true. But I'm going to show you a clip after this that I think seems to likely support the idea that that fight is going to be made. So those guys are out. What about Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier? Well, they're fighting in July, so they're out. So who do we have left? We have Dan Hooker, Mateus Gamrot, and Beneil Dariush. Beneil just fought. I mean, I guess it would kind of line up, but they're not going to put any of those three over Arman Tsarukyan. It has to be Arman Tsarukyan. All right, we're going to finish off with one last clip. This is a clip of Paddy's interview that aired earlier today alongside Eric Nixick. And you judge for yourself. But I think the way that Paddy says this, man, he says it in a way with a look on his face where he's trying not to give away any details, makes me think that these conversations have already happened with the UFC. Maybe he's even already agreed to fight Gaethje. Maybe they're just trying to negotiate and get Gaethje to sign on the dotted line. But I absolutely think that this is what's going down. But judge for yourself.
What is on your roadmap? Like, is there someone else that you would want outside of Ilia? That makes sense.
I think it'd more than likely be Gaethje.
Gaethje?
Oh, that'd be sick.
That would be sick.
It'd more than likely be Gaethje, to be honest. Because I don't think anyone cares about watching Arman Tsarukyan fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he's made himself irrelevant. He got put on the screen yesterday and was getting booed.
Yeah.
It says it all. I mean, no one gives a fuck about him. Even though he's number one contender, I can see him not fighting for the belt for a long time. But I reckon it'd be Gaethje, because obviously Poirier's retiring. Holloway's going to have a fucking war with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're not fighting for a few months.
Yeah, they're out the rest of the year after that fight.
Once them two are throwing down, like they're out for the rest of the year, them two.
Yeah.
Dan Hooker, maybe, but I think I'll end up getting someone ranked higher. And then if it, there's fucking Gamrot's boring ass. No one wants to watch Gamrot either. You know what I mean? He's just about beat someone unranked the other week in the Apex.
Yeah.
That's how much people care about him, lad. He fights in the Apex.
So it went from before calling out Gaethje, asking for Gaethje. Now he's like, I reckon it will be Gaethje. And he gives like these different reasons as to why, because of this, he's boring, he's this, he's that. The way he says it, he thinks it's going to be Gaethje. He's probably had conversations with the UFC. I think it's happening. So anyways, all of this to say, in conclusion, do I think there was a weight miss? I do think so. Can Arman even admit that at this point? I just think he can't. He's had that lie for too long. It would be too ridiculous. Maybe one day he'll admit it. I don't know, but I think that's the situation where he's just got to go with it. And even if he knows that everybody else knows that, we think probably you actually did miss weight, he's just going to still stick with that narrative. And I think that's fine. But the happy ending of this story is that regardless, they're going to make Arman versus Ilia next. It's going to happen. Because as we said, if that fight is made with Gaethje versus Pimblett, which I think is going to happen, nobody else makes sense. It's Arman Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria. We'll see when that happens. It's going to be a great fight. If Ilia can get that one done, that is going to be incredible. Let's hope Paddy beats Gaethje, even though I love Gaethje and I'm a huge fan, and I know it's Justin Jaynes' favorite fighter, but we will have the super fight of the decade if that happens. Paddy, the baddie, will then be ranked 3, 2, or 1 versus Ilia Topuria for the belt. True beef. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree with my take on all of this, or do you disagree with any parts included herein? Let me know if you do. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.